Secretary Rice, what's your favorite karaoke song?
I was going to tell you what it really is, but it's a little raunchy, so...
No, give me the raunchy one. That is terrific. 0% of the people saw that coming, including me.
That's an all-time record.
What did you make of former President Trump?
I remember thinking at the time, well, this is going to be an interesting experiment.
Secretary Rice, you are surprising me a little bit. Who should play you in a movie? Oh, I love that. I love that. Hey family, it's Carlos Watson. Do we have a magical episode for you today? Your girl Condoleezza Rice stopping by. That's right, the former Secretary of State is here in the house. What an interesting person. What an interesting time to be talking to her. She goes full bar, completely candid, and might surprise you a little bit when she starts singing. Enjoy. Secretary Rice?
Hello, how are you?
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
You know, I got to get right to our Cleveland Browns and ask you how you're feeling about them.
I'm feeling pretty good about the Browns these days, and they've made a couple of off-season acquisitions. This is a great time to be a Browns fan.
Yeah. Are you getting to get out and about yet? Have you been vaccinated and all that goodness?
I have been vaccinated, and I've actually, I'm like everybody else working at home, or as a friend of mine said, living at work. And I'm finding, though, that since there really isn't much to do, right? There are no restaurants, people don't get together. Golf is sort of God's gift to social distancing. So I've been playing a lot of golf, especially on the weekends. I'm doing piano lessons. I'm doing my strength training on Zoom. I'm doing my Pilates. It's amazing what you can do virtually these days.
Wait, are you going to tell me you can do a handstand?
I don't know about the handstand part, but I'm actually pretty good.
Did you have a spidey sense about how bad COVID was going to be? Because I assume that having been both National Security Advisor and Secretary of State, that you probably have seen these kinds of things play out in some form in various parts of the world.
I didn't know how bad it would be, but I had a sense that it might be a while. I was actually National Security Advisor when SARS hit. SARS didn't spread into the huge pandemic. We also had avian flu. So we were concerned about something like this happening. So yeah, my antennae were probably up more than most.
What did you make of former President Trump? I mean, had you known him well over the years, or did you just get to know him as he became a serious contender for the presidency?
I had met him a couple times, but never in the context of politics. And I remember thinking at the time, well, this is going to be an interesting experiment. We're about to elect somebody whose first job in government is going to be president of the United States. And that was new. What really struck me, and maybe it's because I'm a political scientist, is that the conditions that produced a populist leader who had never been in government before were something that I think a lot of us had not paid much attention to, frankly. He touched the nerve of people who felt left out by globalization, who felt diminished by elites. He touched the hearts of people by saying, you contribute too, and they've forgotten you, they look down on you. And that's something that we probably still really need to pay attention to. So as a political scientist, I guess I was more interested in what produced this in our society, because somebody said to me, well, is it a revolution? And I said, you know what? A revolution is what happens when you don't see an evolution coming. So this evolution had been going on for some time, but then we had this breakthrough.
When you think about someone like former President Trump, contextualize him for me. Who will you compare him to, either that's currently around or maybe who comes from history somewhere?
Well, I think it's more in the context of people who exist now. Boris Johnson is a little bit this way. And it's not anti-democratic. People are wrong to say it's anti-democratic. These are people who believe that the institutions are not really the way that you reach people. So if you think about the use of Twitter by populists, it goes around the media. It goes around the institutions. It's a direct appeal to the people. And we've seen that before in history. You know, there's a saying that's attributed to Mark Twain that Wagner's music was better than it sounded. I think some of the Trump policy was better than it sounded. There was an extraordinary ability to get people back to work who had not been working for years. If you look at historic unemployment, low unemployment rates before the pandemic. So we shouldn't just kind of try to toss this out because he was an unusual personality.
Secretary Rice, you are surprising me a little bit because I'm actually hearing someone who's supportive of former President Trump.
What I want to be is analytical about it, all right? I don't want it to be emotional about it because, look, I have never said who I voted for or who I didn't vote for. That's why we have a secret ballot. I'm an institutionalist, all right? I don't like it when people go around institutions. I don't like it when the institutions are questioned. I thought that January 6th was one of the most frightening things I have watched. I will also come back and tell you why it was one of the most affirming things that I've ever watched. So this is not about support or lack of support for a particular person. This is, as an analyst of politics and of political systems, it gets to the edge for me when you are unable to sustain Americans' belief in their institutions, trust in their institutions, when they are willing to say that those institutions don't stand for them, then I am worried. It was completely appropriate for President Trump to go to the courts about the election and to all of that. I mean, we did have Bush v. Gore, which ended up in the Supreme Court, by the way. But it was not appropriate to question, past a certain point, the legitimacy of those elections. So what happened on January 6th will always stand as a stain on our democracy. But what happened that night, when people, the senators went back into the Capitol and almost in a boring way certified that election, it was affirming that the system worked. And I have gone around the world telling countries, telling new democracies, if you just get your institutions right, then whatever happens with particular personalities, the institutions will hold. And that's what we saw.
Did you know Mike Pence well?
Yes, I do. I know him well. And had known him when he was governor of Indiana because we had a similar interest in school reform and school choice.
Were you surprised? Because he was under a lot of pressure. And while many of us can sit on the sidelines and say what we would do or not done, people probably had some surprise that he ended up where he did. Were you surprised that things played out as they did?
I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised. This is a man who has integrity and strong values. He and I would be the first to say we wouldn't agree on everything about particularly social policy, but this is somebody of deep integrity, so I wasn't surprised in the least.
Secretary Rice, have you ever, I know people have come to you constantly from the first time I met you all those many years ago. I know people wanted you to run for senator back then. I think the first time we met, they wanted you to run for governor back in the day. Did you ever take it seriously? Did you ever seriously think about running?
Oh, of course, you have to think about it. It's just not in my DNA. We're going to one day, people who run for office successfully, we're going to find that they had an extra chromosome or something because they're different. They really do draw so much energy from, you have to stay on a campaign trail. I mean, our campaigns are ridiculously long, but I did hold the presidency once of an important organization. That was the Rice family. I was the president of the family from the time that I was 4.
I love that. You know what? Birmingham, Alabama has given us some good office holders. Where would you love to travel when the world gets healthy?
You know, I look forward to getting back to some places. I love to go to Italy. I actually had a trip to Scotland and Ireland planned, where some friends and I were going to go and play golf.
Most beautiful place you've ever been to?
Most beautiful place, Lake Como in Italy.
It's really that beautiful.
It is just stunning. I'll give you another one, the holy city, Jerusalem, at sunset or at sunrise. Something otherworldly happened there and you feel it.
Former President Bush has said to me before that there was something special in how you guys got along and interacted. Why do you think that was that you guys had such good chemistry?
I think we complemented each other well. He really was somebody who wanted you to tell him exactly what you were thinking. And that's kind of the way that I am. And I never was going to do it in a way that he read about it in the New York Times. I mean, I remember, you may remember, Carlos, he in a press availability one day, he was asked, do you want to kill Osama bin Laden or do you want to capture him? He said, I'll take him dead or alive. Bring it on.
There's an old poster out west, as I recall, that said, wanted, dead or alive.
So we went back to the Oval Office and he said, I shouldn't have said it, should I? And we were alone. And I said, no, you shouldn't have said it. I said, that is too white hot for the President of the United States to say something like that. Now, I admit the standards maybe shifted a little bit, but at that time, presidents didn't say that kind of thing.
Tell me about this last year and the racial conversation and the racial reckoning. Where do you feel like we are as a country on race, and where would you like to see us go?
I think, in fact, the idea of a colorblind America is probably the wrong dream. We are, race is deep in our history. People have called it original sin. I've called it a birth defect of slavery. When people say we've made no progress, I think either you're too young to realize how much progress we've made, or you're saying that to stop the conversation, because I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. Yes, we've made progress. Now, are there still elements of race that make it difficult for us to completely achieve the American dream for everybody? Of course. We need police reform, but we also need police.
We're not going to defund the police. Not now, not ever.
And I'm a little worried that as we talk about this, that we don't make it impossible to be a policeman, because particularly some of the communities, the most desperate communities, need law and order to be able to exist and to prosper. And so we need police reform. We need education reform. Today, when I can look at your zip code and I can tell whether you're going to get a good education, and a lot of those kids trapped in bad public schools are minority kids, I want to strengthen the public schools, but I also want to give parents the same choices that I would have. So, if I am of means, I'll move to a district where the schools are good and the houses are expensive. That's a choice. I can send my kids to private school. That's a choice. And I have to tell you, Carlos, nothing makes the hair on my neck rise up more than when somebody writes an editorial about why we shouldn't have charter schools and vouchers, because they take away from public education and then send their kids to Sidwell Friends. Come on. So that, for me, is the civil rights issue of our time.
I love that, and I love it especially as the son and grandson of teachers, and I appreciate that. Can I finish up with a lightning round of rapid fire and ask you a couple quick ones? Your favorite book. What's your favorite book?
The Icon and the Axe by Jim Billington, about the Soviet Union and Russia.
Your karaoke song.
Anything Led Zeppelin. I was going to tell you what it really is, but it's a little raunchy, so...
No, give me the raunchy one.
Black Dog by Led Zeppelin.
That is terrific. 0% of the people saw that coming, including me. I absolutely love that. What's your favorite candy?
I don't have a sweet tooth. I have a salt tooth. So you should ask me my favorite salty.
Your favorites? It is?
Popcorn.
Who should play you in a movie?
I want Halle Berry to play me.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Secretary Rice, thank you so very much.
Hey, that was fun. Hey, I've always loved interviewing with you.
Hector, you want a piece?
Sure. I kind of look at this interview from a different perspective, like just from a different lens, like aside from politics. Like I see this interview more like this is the next chapter of her life, like overall, like we got to know her, how she is in life.
I think that's very perceptive, Hector, because I've both known her and I've interviewed her over the years, and she was more open today than I've seen her be before. And I think that you're right that she's in a different place in her life, because I don't know if she would have shared Black Dog before. I don't know if she would have shared some of the other things.
Now that I've heard her speak a number of times, I believe she is a good person. I think she has a good heart, and she is doing what she thinks is best for the country, and she had the power to do it. So, oddly, I guess the short story is I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I like Condoleezza Rice.
Yeah. I guess that Black Dog is your favorite song.
Ooh.
Extremely eloquent. I love the way she speaks. And she completely won me over again when she said Halle Berry to play her lifestyle. I thought that was just so dope. I was like, you know, girl, I mean, who's better to play than Halle Berry? So, I think she's amazing.
It's nice whenever you meet somebody who's in a good place and can be there with you for a minute, and she was able to be there, so that was a treat. Yeah.
And also, she said you guys have been friends for a long time, huh? So, Carlos, you just know everybody, huh?
You know what? I know her. She and I had a common friend together. The first time I met her was a dinner at this friend's house, and I didn't know who was coming to dinner, and she walked in. I said, whoa.
Now, were you at liberty to say who the friend was?
I wish I could.
Okay.
Hey, I hope you really enjoyed that conversation with Condi Rice. I always find her fascinating. Such interesting thoughts. I forgot what a political scientist she really is. Was surprised by some of the support for President Trump, or at least appreciation of what he was trying to do. Really interesting to hear her talk. And of course, I love that she still loves our Cleveland Browns. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of The Carlos Watson Show. If you like what you're watching, please be sure to subscribe. And of course, treat yourself to the podcast. It's all kinds of good. Thanks for watching. I hope I see you soon.